All right, guys, welcome to the first edition of the Epic Creative Podcast, where we're just going to talk about, everything small town creative, such as videography, photography, graphic design, and creating a business around those things. With me, I have our co-host, Troy Widger. Say hello, Troy.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Good to be here.
So yeah, this is the first edition. We had some technical difficulties in the beginning here, but I think that's to be expected with the very first edition. And I'm just out here on my carport. Troy's setup is making me jealous because he's in the air condition. Looks good in there.
Actually, I'm not. Actually, it's only in the 70s here, so no air conditioning.
Oh, nice.
Windows
Yo,
open.
dude,
Yeah.
we got a blasting down here in Mississippi. Um, but me and Troy are both videographers, photographers, entrepreneurs, trying to build a video slash photo business in small towns. And so that's what this podcast is hopefully going to appeal to is people that can relate and are also trying to build their businesses in a small town. And then Troy also does music. So he's got a good handle on the audio side of things, but also photography and video. And then I've got sort of the same things, but not so deep into the music like Troy is at the moment. So you're going to hear from videographers, photographers, audio engineers, graphic designers, so many different creatives on this podcast, probably some people too who paint murals. I mean, we're just going to cover anything creative that can make you a living. So yeah, today's topic though is going to be on wedding filmmaking. I've shot a ton of weddings, have a lot of years of experience doing it. Troy is more on the events, um, wildlife side of things, right? In terms of your photography
hmm
and stuff like that. So he
Yeah.
was asking me, should he consider shooting some weddings in Illinois where he is located? And yeah, we figured we would just cover those here. So I'm going to pass the buck to Troy and we'll get
All
into this
right.
topic.
Cool. Thank you, Forrest. So, pardon me if I'm not looking at the camera all the times. My computer's over here, camera's here. So,
Yeah, no
let's
worries.
get right into it. We're gonna go start with your background experience.
Basically.
Yeah, how long have you been shooting weddings specifically, and how many would you say you've shot approximately?
Okay, so I shot my best friend's wedding in 2013. That was
Mhm.
kind of like the one that really kicked it off. Mainly, well, we can get into that, but that was the one that kicked it off. So, and honestly, that first 2 to 3 years, I did the most in those years, and I started tapering off towards, now. And I would say I've
Mhm.
shot at least 80 weddings, maybe closer to 90. I really would have to like go back and count it. So that's like approximate, but yeah, I guess been doing it for 10 years now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. 10, 11 years. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And let's go into style. How would you describe the style that you take to weddings? How does it correlate to, say, your documentaries? I know you're really fond of those. You've done a lot of those. What are some similarities and what are some differences as far as the artistic approach you take to those jobs?
Yeah. So for a documentary, for example, I mean, you're trying to tell a direct story,
Mhm.
maybe to somebody who knows absolutely nothing about the story. So you really have to build
Mhm.
it from scratch. Weddings are a little different where the people who are going to be watching them kind of already know the story. They know the couple know themselves, the parents know them. So you're
Mhm.
not, this isn't really going out to a wide audience of people, right?
Right.
Now, if you can
Mhm.
get stuff that you would get in a documentary, such as interviews and voiceovers, I do like to incorporate those. But I would say my wedding style is going to be overly cinematic.
Mhm.
Like in a documentary, you would never shoot everything on a gimbal and
Right.
all at 1.4. You get what I'm saying? Like really
Yeah.
to me what the wedding film is just a triggering mechanism. It should trigger your memories. So
Mhm.
let's say
Mhm.
you're like 65 years old, 75 years old, and like your memory's starting to get kind of bad. You would be able to re-trigger some of those memories, I believe, by watching a
Mhm.
wedding film, that's shot well. Um, because people can just instantly remember things when they unlock that door, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
for me, that's what it's more about. So I don't focus as much as I would in a documentary about like building the story out and having all these crazy different compositions and interviews and things like that. I'm really just
Mhm.
trying to like give you a stream of memories to go back to, if that
Kind
makes
of,
sense.
kind
Does
of,
that make
kind
sense?
of more. Yeah, kind of more in the moment. You're
And like
capturing the
from
moment.
a technical standpoint, I shoot it all as fast as humanly possible to just give it the most
Hmm.
bokeh, right? I shoot
Okay.
everything at
Okay.
50 mil
Hmm.
unless it's like a drone shot because I don't, I'm more like focused on the people, you know? Like I know a
Right.
lot of people like to
Right.
shoot like a lot of wide shots on 16 millimeters, but I don't care to see every wall of the venue. I'm more of just like
Right.
really honed in on a person and then every now and again using
Yeah.
like a drone shot to get a nice establishing shot. But I don't do a lot of
Hmm.
scope. Like it's all mid to telephoto.
Okay.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
Did
And that's
that
why you like
answer?
to stick. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you like to stick with 50 mil because you're kind of close up on people and things can get kind of weird looking when you're wide on a face.
Dude,
And
100%.
a bride doesn't want that. Yeah. So
I think
50
our
mil
I think
for
our eye
weddings.
sees between 35 and 50 personally.
Absolutely.
And when you're
Yep.
zoned in
Yep.
on something, it's about 50. And the other thing that 50
Hmm.
does is it's not quite a telephoto, but it's not quite
Hmm.
a wide lens, so you don't have to get as close to people. It's
Hmm.
less awkward. If I've got a
Okay.
16 mil on to like frame them up and fill the frame, I would have to be
Hmm.
like right up on them.
Okay.
And I mean, I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
At your wedding
And
day,
it gets weird.
you don't want to like smell the videographer, right? They should never
Yeah,
be able to smell
exactly.
you. So with the with the 50, you can stay about 10 foot back and still have a like tight shot.
Okay. 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 So if let me ask you another question. So you're on a gimbal, you're shooting a wedding. You have the option to go with a say a 15 to 35 where you kind of have some range, but it's a 2.8, or just a little nifty 50, say like a 50 mil 1.8. What would you choose in that situation?
It's funny because like having the zoom is a good advantage. And actually,
Hmm.
Fujifilm just sent me a lens that's like a 15 to 45, and it's a great lens. This
Okay.
is 2.8 and versatile, right? I
Hmm.
might lean more towards using that like at a festival or something. Not that I wouldn't use it. I would just always have that super fast 50 prime for when the sun goes down, whether you're
Exactly.
inside or outside. That's where that
Hmm.
lens really shines. Or no, that's not where it shines. That's where that lens comes in clutch.
Yeah.
It may
To
not
get an
be
extra
the
stop, right?
cleanest image ever, but it's still going to look good and it's going to hold its
Right.
own. Now, where it shines, weirdly enough, is in the broad daylight with a good
Okay.
ND filter on it, whether that's like a hard stop ND or some kind of VND. I use the
Hmm.
Canon VND that attaches to the body and then you put the lens. That
Yeah.
that that VND might be one of the best variable ND filters I've ever used because all my other ones, even the Tiffin I have, has a slight vignetting as you go down. Canon, I don't know what they did, but it is hard all the way across the board. The color looks great. And so
Something about that filter being close to the sensor, huh?
yeah, that's definitely got to be it. That's definitely got to be the
Mm.
reason. I mean, you're looking at 3 or 4, maybe 5 inches of, it coming closer. So
Right. Yeah, that's a big, yeah, that makes a difference. Okay, cool. All right, great. Well, let's move on. That was, yeah, we kind of spent some time on that, but that was a great one. All right, so equipment. Now, as far as equipment goes, we kind of already have dove into that with the lenses. But let's talk about backup equipment. What would you do, say, for instance, if a camera body failed on you or a lens broke? Do you always have, are you kind of the two is one and one is none crowd? Do you always have a backup with you everywhere you go?
yeah, the funny thing about that is I'm not so married to a particular tool, right?
Hmm.
Because every camera I've ever had, which I'm really lucky, but every camera I've had, I've learned how to use pretty well. And
Hmm.
that being said, I do have backups, but it's not like if I'm shooting on the R6, I have a backup R6. That's not the
Right.
case of all at all. I have
Yeah.
a bunch of cameras, but none of them are identical. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I actually usually just use the tool that I feel like I need to use at the moment. So
Right.
that's why like if you go through the YouTube channel, the Epic Creative channel and look at weddings, you're not gonna see you're gonna see a lot of weddings shot on the R6, a lot of them shot on the
Hmm.
R, some of them shot on the Red, um, some wedding type stuff shot on the M. So yes, I always have backups, but I don't have like an identical backup. I just have a bunch of
Right.
other cameras that I trust.
Right.
Honestly, man, like I could pull out the C100 right now, throw the Ninja 5
Hmm.
on it,
Hmm.
shoot in
Oh yeah.
1080, up-res it to 4K, and it would probably look
Hmm.
better than the R6. That's how good
Right. Oh really? Okay.
C100 is. Oh,
Okay.
dude, it's incredible. So,
Wow.
yeah, I'm not married to a tool, but I definitely have a lot of
Hmm.
backups if like the R6 died.
Hmm.
Makes sense?
Okay. Yeah. Was
I do
that
know
the
some
C100?
photographers and videographers who have like a Sony A7S and like
Okay.
literally an identical A7S. And
Right.
when they talk backup, they mean like, do you have an identical unit ready to go?
Yeah. No, I
I
didn't mean
I
that.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't, but
Yeah. Just something, something in the toolbox. Yeah.
well, I'm
Okay.
also like
Um.
a hyper collector of cameras. So that works in my advantage
Right.
if there's a failure. Do I need a
Hmm.
bunch of different cameras? No, definitely not.
Hmm.
Um, but I just like them. So, and it comes in handy if something does go wrong. Sorry to
Cool.
cut you off.
Let's segue into audio then. I feel for me, like my biggest fear in a wedding is like missing the vows. I feel like that's like something that I feel like that's something you really need to get. And we've talked about this before. You've gave me a few great ideas, but yeah, what do you do to capture vows? And are you using any lav mics at all in your weddings these days? I know you have in the past. Yeah, what's your process with audio these days?
Dude, that is one of the things that wreaks havoc on videographers, in my opinion, at weddings is
Mm-hmm.
miking up people at ceremonies or speeches and things like that. And there are some incredible people on YouTube, especially, that are doing that
Mm-hmm.
and are
Mm-hmm.
really, really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to get in. To me, this comes down to a cost thing. Like you've got to get in that $1,500 and above range if you're going to offer
Okay.
it as like a hard part of the package, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have
Mm-hmm.
a workaround for it and I like it better anyways. And, your service is whatever you decide it's going to be. So I just am honest and upfront about the way I handle the audio. I do vow recordings. In fact, I did some Saturday, really good ones
Mm-hmm.
actually with this mic. And
Okay.
so I require it to be done separately than a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So, early that morning when I met the couple, I said, "Hey, can I go in a separate room with you and you read your vows? They have them written out on paper, or sometimes they'll do a letter too, and you can record that. Anything they've written to each other, I will record it. Um, and so we record that, and then I can lay that over as a voiceover later, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we can
Mm-hmm.
get into like, I guess that goes back to my style too, because I don't do like full recordings of ceremonies.
Right.
I just don't do
Right.
that. That's like deposition type videography, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. I know a guy who does
Yeah.
that,
It's
and
different. It's a different style. It's just a different
it's not
style.
even a style. It's like there's some utilitarian type videographers, and we need those people. We need people
Right.
who will
Right.
sit and real technical and all about like recording an entire event and it's all polished. We need those people because I like those
Mm-hmm.
videos. I just don't make them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Right.
make more
Yeah.
like, I mean, like trailers on steroids. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically what I
Absolutely.
make. So yeah, to answer your audio question, any audio that I do is done completely separate in a controlled environment, and that way I can control it later. I could add some room
Mm-hmm.
noise if I wanted to make it sound like it's recorded in the hall or wherever they got married or the cathedral.
Okay.
And then even
Right.
I have clients, just on a side note, I've had some clients say we wanted to do that, but we didn't realize that was the package above. And so I drove to their house 2 weeks after the wedding, took my recording equipment and recorded their vows
Awesome.
and then added it in and just charged them like I think an extra $300 or something. So it was a nice like
Okay.
upsell and it was cool that they
Hmm.
had that option, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that you
Absolutely.
wouldn't, but you just take a high risk of promising somebody nothing's going to go wrong at this with the audio. It's not like you're
That's always
recording a
good. Yeah.
commercial or even a sermon. Like a
Hmm.
sermon, that would be bad if you were recording for a church and the audio didn't work, but it wouldn't be as bad as this pastor's wedding. You get what I'm saying? There's going to be another
Yeah.
sermon.
Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, sorry
Hmm.
we had technical difficulties. You can't say that to a bride and groom if you promise you're going to get their vows live. And same thing with speeches, man. And so like the
Yeah.
wording is such that's like, here are our priorities, these 12 things we want to get. But we cannot guarantee that we'll hit every one,
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
that makes sense. It's not saying like, hey, we're gonna do a bad job. It's just like, if nobody tells me the cake's getting cut and I'm over here filming on the dance floor, and the planner doesn't say, "Hey, we're cutting the cake," and I miss it. It's not always on you because there's so much going on. And I've
Yeah,
never had
you're
any
just one
complaints. I've
person.
got a lot of great reviews, like 30 plus, and so, but I'm upfront too. I have a lot of people say, "Will you record the full ceremony?" And the answer is no. And it's because of the audio. And why am I going to record it
That
if
way,
you don't
it's
have
a fail
audio?
safe. What's that? I mean, yeah, you can't lose that way because you're going to be able to capture it, like you said, even after the fact of the matter, if you have to.
For sure.
That's a great tip. Okay,
We could do a whole
so
podcast on audio too, by the way. I mean,
I know, oh yeah, absolutely. So next, let's talk about lighting. So I always thought the biggest challenge shooting a wedding would be the dance floor, right? Low light, maybe no light at all in some of these venues. Uh, so what do you do? Do you rig a light up on your rig and go that way, or do you bring some lights? What's your process there? You just kind of work with what lighting you have.
it depends. So dance floor specific, we'll just skip all the day of stuff. Just assume
Hmm.
you're going to use
Hmm.
natural light and like
Hmm.
use natural light, not just let it use
Yes,
you. Like be like, ask the bride,
right.
"Hey, can we do what you're doing closer to the window?"
Over here.
And they'll
Hmm.
trust you on all that. So we'll skip the
Hmm.
whole day of the wedding, assuming you know how
Hmm.
to do that. And dance floor
Hmm.
wise, I kind of have a hybrid system. I have like three
Okay.
options I can go to. Number one, I can use the light that's available, which I
Hmm.
will say 80% of the time is fine, you know,
Okay.
because a lot of time,
Okay.
I mean, nowadays DJs are getting so good with their lighting that they'll
Yeah.
they'll light the dance floor in a certain way for that part. So I used to bring an LED and hoist it up, and the photographers loved that because their flash was doing less work, and so
Right.
they could get better, less noisy images. But
Hmm.
that being said, nowadays I bring the LED, but I don't put it up very often because the DJs are already like they might even have lighting that goes with the song, which makes it even better
Right.
because it's coming up and
Okay.
down and color changes and stuff like that.
Cool. Okay.
But
Okay.
I've been in situations, a couple of them, quite a few of them, where the lighting was just terrible. DJ didn't have
Mhm.
any lighting.
Yeah.
I
I've
might have
been
that.
there. I've been
I
there.
have the LED, but I like to use the LED as the backlight. That's not, if I'm using that, it's not like I'm not relying on it to shine on their faces. It's more of like, where am I going to be pointing the most? Let me put it there because I want that light like passing through them into my lens. And that
Okay.
gives them that nice rim. And then I'll have the LED panel. I mean, there's 100
Hmm.
names for them. You can just get them on Amazon. Aperture sells them.
So let's move on to number four real quick.
But yeah, just to hey finish that thought though,
Mhm, mhm.
I just put the LED panel on the front, so I have like an LED light. But that
Mhm. On your
rarely
rig.
happens. That rarely happens
Okay.
because I shoot on fast lenses. But anyway,
Right. Right. You should 1.8 wide open.
1.4, 1.8. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So let's move on to number four real quick. The size of your crew and what you do to be prepared on the day of the wedding, being that you're a crew of one usually, and what changes in your getting prepared if, say, you do have another filmer with you.
So the only time I ever bring somebody else is if I'm offering the photography side of it and the video.
Okay.
In which case,
Okay.
I'll bring an
Okay.
experienced videographer, and then I'll
Oh,
focus
and
on
then
the
you'll do
photos.
photo. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
photo is just something that is if I could get a professional, but the thing is they don't want to come do photo for me because they're building their photo brand. So if I
Right.
do photo, I have to get somebody else for video. In
Gotcha.
terms of being prepared, after you do it for this long, it becomes like a science, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
a trick that I will tell you guys that will help you, pack up however you want, do your checklist, whatever, that's all good. The thing I do that really started helping me is when I'm ready to leave, I go through my head setting up. Like I visualize myself taking my bag, putting it on my tailgate, opening it up, pulling this DSLR out. Because if I do that, a step will come and I'll go, oh, I don't have that lens. Like you'll remember that you did or didn't pack it if you just go through the motions in your head of setting up,
Right.
and you'll go, oh
Right.
crap, I don't have that lens, and then run back inside and get it. I do that
Gotcha.
with everything, but yeah, just visualize yourself setting up, and a checklist helps, but after a while, you don't really need the checklist. And I'll
Hmm.
build my
Hmm.
camera. I don't build my camera on the site. I don't like doing that. That's a recipe to
Yeah.
forget something.
Yeah, for
I build
sure.
it all
Okay.
here, and I'll even
Okay.
walk around outside with it and just make sure it's all good to go. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And if I have somebody else shooting, they're usually an experienced handheld shooter, and I'll go that
Hmm.
route. Or if
Gotcha.
they are comfortable with a gimbal, we'll do that, and I'll
Hmm.
do the photos.
Hmm. Cool. All right, let's move on to the last one. We got about 7 minutes. This might take all of that.
10-4.
So, deliverables and revisions. Um, if any at all, how many rounds of revisions do you include in your packages? And what other deliverables do you deliver just besides like the video in your package deals?
It's a good question. So for re-edits, let's talk about that first.
Mhm.
When someone is, this is how I've structured my business. This may be right, this may be wrong, but I
Mhm.
sell my art with
Mhm.
them being featured in it, right? So I
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
style. And I had
Mhm.
this experience a couple months ago where I filmed a wedding and then they were kind of like put off by the style, but all of my weddings are like that.
Mhm.
Most people see a video and they like it. And so I'm
Right.
basically replicating that style to them.
Mhm.
So I really don't do a lot of re-edits. I might do one or
Right.
two a
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
one or two a year. And a lot of
Okay.
times it's just easy stuff like, hey, you know, can you take this person out? They're like not,
Right.
our favorite, or hey, this guy's holding a Bud Light. We'd rather our grandmother not see that. And it's
Mhm.
just something I didn't see or I missed or didn't know it was an issue and just kind of move that cut over and send it. In terms of other deliverables that I'll give them, it
Mhm.
depends on the tier of packages, right? Like the lowest
Mhm.
package, you get basically one video. The
Right.
second package, you get two videos, a long form, a short form, and then I take tons of screenshots because I'm shooting in 4K. So they basically
Right.
get more photos, in addition to
Mhm.
what their photographer shot. Um,
Mhm.
and then the package above that is basically all of what I just talked about, and then the raw footage on a hard drive. Um, and I,
Okay.
I, I do have
Okay.
quite a people who go for that top tier package. Like they want the raw
Okay.
footage, and it'll be the raw audio. I mean, they could literally re-edit everything if they wanted to. They
Right.
have that
Right.
ability. But
They want that whole full day. They want everything.
yeah, and I guess that would be kind of fun to go back and watch the B-roll, the random
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some good funny moments in there, always, for sure. Sure. Cool. Well, we got 5 minutes left. Why don't you wrap this up for us? I think that answers all my questions. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you found value in the content. We're gonna just play this thing by ear. Next week we might be talking about audio, and then who knows, we might have an artist on or something like that. But this is just a podcast to help, I would say, small town creators, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's what we are. I mean, and we're doing okay in terms of navigating the clientele and navigating the different revenue streams and things like that. But it's going to be different for every place, and I think we can all learn from each other, learn different things,
Absolutely.
and yeah, have a lot of fun. Really, just be creative and make a living. That's my goal. It's
Right.
I think that's been my goal since I was a child. Um,
Mhm.
even before I knew I needed money. I just wanted to be creative and
Absolutely.
yeah, hopefully we can all learn from each other and do that. But without further ado, I guess we'll close this thing up. And what do you think? Do another one next week?
Yeah. Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, brother. I will see you later, and I will see
All
everyone
right.
else later. Peace.
All right. Peace, everybody.